Okay, we're on. Okay. So we're learning about Pinchas. The story of Pinchas is a story about a event between Zimri, who was a Jewish prince, and Cosby, who was a Midianite princess. Anybody knows the story? What happened? And what ended up happening, for some strange reason, is that Cosby and Zimri were having this kind of affair in the front of all of the people. Zimri challenged Moses. He said, "Is your wife a Midianite?" She was, in fact, a Midianite. And he said, "Okay, so if a Midianite woman is acceptable for Moses, it's acceptable to me." And he took this Midianite woman, and he was with her in a very public setting. And in addition to that, the Talmud says he was with her this kind of supernatural amount of times. And what's interesting, Peter, do you mind? Okay. What's interesting is that at the same time, this was connected to the plot of Bilam and Balak, which is that they would lead the Jewish men astray through the Midianite women, and then they would get them to worship idols. In other words, the goal wasn't just to lead them astray after women. Which women would want to just be with men they don't know? That's not a normal thing. But there was a goal. The goal was that the God of Israel hates this type of behavior, and you'll be able to get to them through this. They'll do whatever you want. So the Midianite women were with these men, these Israelite men, and then they were saying, like before we're together, why don't you do a little bit of this for let's offer some incense, let's pour some libations, let's do something for one of our gods. And they would say, okay, sounds like a good trade, we'll do it. And because of that, a plague broke out, and 24,000 people were killed in the plague. In the middle of this situation, people didn't know what to do. And Pinchas was a zealot. You know what a zealot means? What is a zealot?
It's a person very extreme in whatever their religion or whatever their primary thing is.
Somebody who's an extremist, yeah. A religious extremist is what we would call them today. So Pinchas was one of these religious extremists, and he got very angry. Now, he had remembered a little-known law that is obscure, which is that if somebody is having this type of affair in a public setting, meaning they're not embarrassed of it, they're making a statement out of it, that a kinoyan, not the beis din, not the court of law, but a zealot can attack them. Now, according to the Talmud, a number of miracles happened. When he went to attack them, if Zimri would have slipped away from Cosby and grabbed a sword or a knife, he could have defended himself, and if he had killed Pinchas, he would have been free because he would have been killing him in self-defense. So Pinchas was actually putting his life in his hand. Furthermore, the tribe of Shimon who was surrounding the tent, could have also taken action when they saw him coming in with his spear, and they could have also stopped him. So the number of miracles that happened. So there's a deeper question really of what's going on many levels. For example, the Ishbitzer, the Man Shiloh, says that the truth is that Pinchas was a nar. Pinchas was a simple person. And Pinchas only knew right from wrong on a very black and white level. In other words, a sophisticated person realizes that there's gray areas in life, and that Shulchan Aruch, as clear as it seems, is just that. It's for simple people who need to follow the simple letter of the law. But once you get more complex, you have shalos and shuvas, you have responsa, you have a deeper reading of the law. After all, Judaism is about reading the law. It's all about a relationship with the text that you try to understand the layers of meaning and when it applies and how it applies and when it doesn't apply. And what are the extenuating circumstances? So, including Eis Lashas LaHashem, when's the time to do for God? Heferus Arasecha, even if it means you're not following the letter of the law. So, what was going on, according to the Ishbitzer, is that that Zimri and Cosby knew that they were soulmates. That's why they were together.
That's nice.
Wishful thinking, right? So they knew they were soulmates, and therefore they were together. But Pinchas didn't know that they were soulmates because he was simple. He was a nar. He was like a kid in a way, in naive simplicity. And he killed them because he comes from a family where he comes from, on one side of his family, Binyamin, Yosef, right? Yosef and Binyamin are brothers. Yosef guarded himself against Potiphar's wife. He went through tremendous hardships to say no, even though it would have been much easier for him to go along with it. And he was so stringent in upholding the law that Pinchas knew from his family, from his experience, that you hold by the law. You don't play games. You don't start shopping for kulas. You don't start looking for leniencies. You do as it's at Vash state, whatever is written. So Pinchas understood it from his perspective, because in general in Ishbitz there's this dichotomy between the person who is the archetype of Yosef, which means you follow the law, and there's the personhood, the archetype of Yehuda, who goes beyond the law. Even in halacha, there's two things. There's the koach of the din of the law, and there's also the kocha de hetera, the adif, which means that a ability to permit something that may seem that it's forbidden on face value is even more powerful to be able to permit them. There's a lot of noise tonight.
You're noisy over there.
You have your phone. There's a base. He's like, let's stop for what's going on with the American League.
Why did he think he had the responsibility to make that judgment? And
because he saw that it was a leaderless moment. Nobody knew what to do. And he understood that this was a bad thing for the people, because we're responsible, Kol Yisrael Reiv themselves, that we're responsible for one another. So when you see something happening in a public way, kind of like a slap in the face to Moses and a questioning of his authority and so on and so forth. Is it locked downstairs?
Oh, yeah,
it's not locked.
It was locked.
It was locked.
You didn't try it.
Okay. Doesn't matter. It's all wonderful. Yeah, the front door is probably unlocked. So this is how the Ishbitzer explains it. The Ishbitzer explains it that Pinchas was where he was coming from the Yosef type of personality. He was doing what he thought was right. Where Cosby and Zimri were coming from, they were also doing what was right. So the question is, where were Cosby and Zimri wrong then, if they were really soulmates? And the answer is that the whole idea in Judaism is there's certain things that are forbidden, and they can become permitted. For example, the Midianite woman could have converted, become Jewish.
Wow.
And then she would have become permitted. But at that moment, it was forbidden. So because he didn't wait, he didn't have patience. There's a lot of things that the big question in life is, if it's real, then you should have the patience to do it the right way. If it's just a fling, if it's just a desire that's not real, then of course you're not going to have patience, because you're just going to want to do it the wrong way, because that's what you want. So he should have waited. That was his sin wasn't in the essence of what he did, but when he did it. He did it too early. He could have waited. If she was really a soulmate, that's what Dari says.
Really?
So then she should have waited. He should have waited.
Adam and
Anyway.
Eve also didn't wait. It's always this wait thing.
It's the exact same thing. Adam and Eve is that they didn't wait. There's some interpretation of what happened with the tree of knowledge is that they lived with each other before Shabbos. In other words, they should have waited for the right time to be together. Or even eating from the tree of knowledge could have been permitted eventually. So a lot of things like that. Let's talk a little bit about what this. That's a little bit about the Ishbitzer. I like that a lot. This Ishbitzer. It's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the Zohar on Parshas Pinchas as well. The Zohar says some very interesting things about the Gilgal of Pinchas, about while the Ishbitzer focuses on the Gilgal of Cosby and Zimri and links them up with Dinah and Shimon, the Zohar focuses here on the Gilgal of Pinchas. Now we know that Pinchas had 4 uncles, right? Actually 3 uncles.
Korach was an uncle?
3 uncles. He had many uncles, but 3 uncles that were Kohanim. And we know because there were 4 Kohen, the sons of Aaron were 4, right? There was Nadav and Avihu, Elazar and Isamar. Now Nadav and Avihu died in a tragic death the day of the inauguration of the Mishkan. The question is in the Zohar, what happens to the neshama, to a soul, after it leaves this world? So, according to the Zohar, the souls of Nadav and Avihu became reincarnated into the soul of Pinchas, because there's different types of Gilgulim, there's different types of reincarnation. Sometimes you could be, usually it's called the Ibur, which means like a person within a person, like a woman who's pregnant has another person growing within her, and that's a type of reincarnation, which means that one person already has a soul, you get additional soul or souls put into them. So that's the first thing. So let's see what the Zohar says. First of all, Pinchas held on to the Shekhinah, and he guarded himself in that area of intimacy. And the person who does that type of thing is, in turn, kind of like married to the Shekhinah. They're united with the Shekhinah, with the divine presence, the divine resting place. And that protects that person and guards them. So Rabbi Shimon says that at that time it was a very vulnerable time for the Israelites in Shittim, in that time of that plague. It could have been a much greater devastation because they watched what Zimri did. He did this in public. They didn't say anything. They didn't try to stop him. There were other people. Zimri wasn't the only person. There were other people who were doing similar things with the daughters of Moab and the idols, Baal Pa'ar. And if not for this action that Pinchas took into his own hands, the anger would not have subsided so quickly. So that's why it says Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen Heshib is Chamasi. Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron, he calmed God